So, you guys reminded me about the D.A.R.E story. D.A.R.E. So, if you don't know what D.A.R.E is, back in the mid to late 1990s to around the early 2000s, there was a really big push from the government to push this D.A.R.E program, which is what did D.A.R.E stand for? Drug Abuse Resistance Education, right? And it also had this really shitty mascot. Yeah, there you go. It had this really shitty mascot that like made no sense. It was just a fucking lion, right? There was a lot of different ways that they did shit. So like early on, when I was in elementary school, all they did was like, I remember one time we had skateboarders show up, which is ironic when you think about it now. But like, we had skateboarders show up, and they did skateboard tricks, and then they talked about how, you know, winners don't use drugs, right? And like, you know, I skateboard and I'm a professional, and they weren't. I knew who was professional or not. Anyway, so we middle school, it was pretty much the same thing. You had people show up and talk, and like we went all in the auditorium, and we did like all of these like group exercises together, and they're like, yeah, you know, this is great because we're all here. Drugs can keep us away from each other. This is what we get to do. Yeah, essentially, right? This is where the story is going to be important, right? So D.A.R.E decides while we're in high school, this happens 3 years, by the way, of my high school life. D.A.R.E, while we're in high school, decides that they want to do, teach you, obviously, since you're about to drive. And in the United States, you're allowed to drive when you're 15 and a half with a parent in the passenger seat, 16 alone. So they decide, because teenagers are going to be driving, that they want to show you the dangers of driving while drunk, driving under the influence of alcohol, correct? So how do they do this? They do this by staging a accident related to somebody driving under the influence. We do something similar, Kat. Something similar. So we do, they'd stage a situation, basically. And what happens is that they decide that on this day where they're going to stage something, from the beginning of the day till this moment, which happened around noon, they picked a specific time. They're saying, you know, every so often somebody dies to drunk driving at this amount of time, right? Let's say it's 30 minutes. I don't remember the actual number. Let's say it's something like that. And every 30 minutes, there would be a ding over the PA system, and somebody, possibly in your class, would get up and fucking leave, right? Which was like, okay, whatever. We didn't know about this at the time until, obviously, if you're freshman and you're sophomore and junior year, you know about this. But freshmen, you don't know about this. You walk out later on to this stage thing where these motherfuckers brought a wrecked car and put it just in the middle of the parking lot and brought the firefighter department and had those students who had just left throughout the day painted in all fucking white to indicate that they were dead. And then they had their bodies around this fucking car. That was just completely, like, it was just total. And so and afterwards, while they're talking about the dangers of drunk driving, and they're doing the whole firefighter shit of getting their bodies and, you know, taking them in, you know, and doing all of the medic stuff, right? Afterwards, they have them all stand into a line in front of this wrecked car, and they talk about how drunk driving can kill one of your friends. And you shouldn't do it. When I was a kid, I was like, bro, oh, I get it. All right. Now, I agree. I'm like with Barry. I'm like, this shit's fucking insane. Like, this is like borderline traumatic. Like, you staged this whole fucking thing just to be like, yeah, drug driving is bad. Guess what, folks? D.A.R.E didn't work. If you want to believe it or not. D.A.R.E didn't work. In fact, D.A.R.E had the opposite effect. Statistically speaking, more kids did drugs after D.A.R.E than they did before it, on a percentage. And thus, they disbanded D.A.R.E because it didn't fucking work. And they did this whole thing. Oh my god, there was so much crap around it. It was like you had like this red elastic band around you. If you wore the band for like a fucking month or some shit, they were just like, they gave you something. Yeah, that you swear a pledge. You wrote something. You wrote like a not a diploma, you know, like you wrote on a piece of paper and said like basic, I will never, ever, ever do drugs. Yeah, I mean, I started drinking when I was 15, so it obviously didn't fucking work. I've never drunk driven, I'll say that, but our high school was always joked as the district's pharmacy. That was our joke name. That was the joke name for our school from other schools. And I lived in a pretty well-to-do. I live in a nice part of SoCal. I live in a very nice part of SoCal. It's not like I live in a part where, you know, people are pushing drugs and shit. Nope. I live in a very nice part of SoCal. I will tell you that one time when I was 16 years old, I was in Spanish 3. I remember it as clear as day. I'll never forget it. Sitting next to these two girls. They're nice enough, you know. They obviously just like kind of care less about class, but they're just nice. They're nice people. I hung out with them every now and then. And so one day I am just sitting there taking Spanish notes, just, you know, trying to get through class. I didn't really care about Spanish class either, honestly. And we are doing some like, what's it called? Like, just like, you know, busy work, stuff like that, memorization, all that kind of stuff. And my friend taps me on the shoulder and she's like, hey, Sammy, do you want it? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's just like, yeah, like I have a few extra, I have a few extra mollies. Do you want one? It's like 12 p.m., brother. Like, we are still in the middle of school. And I was like, why do you need to do molly right now? She's like, I'm bored. And sure enough, right in front of my eyes, I watched two high school girls just pop molly in the middle of Spanish high school, or middle of Spanish class, because they were bored as fuck and they did not want to do any class work. And sure enough, yeah, that was my school. I will say I did not do anything until I was around 18. But I started drinking when I was like 15ish. So, you know, it kind of balances out. Yeah, you were right, Sign. And I played sports, so I was around it literally all the time. Sorry, soccer, like high school soccer, really didn't mean anything to me because I already played on a competitive team that was at a higher level than what high school was playing. High school was like kind of like sort of like when the World Cup happens every now and then, you recognize that the teams are not as cohesive because they haven't played together as much. It's sort of like that. It's like, yeah, it's fun, but like at the end of the day, like if you don't win nationals, if you don't win the World Cup, it doesn't really mean shit. Like you just don't care. We weren't gonna win nationals, so I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Like I didn't give a shit about. But I was around that stuff all the time, and yeah, a lot of the times, a lot of my friends would just be smoking a shit ton of weed or doing molly or something, right?